At the beginning of this story, we meet a loser boy named Suigwin, and he doesn't know it yet, but he has supernatural powers that make him the strongest in the world. At this moment, he is on a mission to save the planet, and is surrounded by millions of zombies and monsters who want to attack him. However, when the monsters run towards him, Suigwin activates a bizarrely powerful elemental power, and then he runs towards the enemies and begins to defeat them with ease. But the truth is that Suigwin was not always so powerful. In the beginning, Suigwin was just a dirty, rejected and lonely orphan boy who studied at an elite school built on an old cemetery. He believed that his life would never matter, just like many other forgotten people. But everything began to change when he discovered that Egyptian prince who was a scammer, who sent emails asking for money in exchange for false promises, was actually his grandfather. This mysterious grandfather left him an inheritance of 10 billion yen to spend on online games. Yeah, that's the kind of luck that will never happen to me or you. But Suigwin is the main character, so he has that luck. Anyway, Suigwin studies at a private academy called Shimiu, where he lived in the boys' dormitory. His parents had gone out to buy milk and never returned, which forced him to grow up alone, doing odd jobs to survive. He spent most of his time working and being bullied because of his addiction to games. One summer morning, while he was working as a lifeguard and playing video games at the same time, a group of bullies approached him and asked if he had seen a girl with pink hair. Suigwin said he didn't know anything, and the boys told him he should be more careful at work. He replied that he didn't even know how to swim, and that he was just there to clean the pool. One of the bullies threw his cat, Wan Koi, into the water and told him to clean it up. Without thinking twice, Suigwin jumped into the pool to save the cat, but ended up drowning along with it. When he opened his eyes, he was lying next to the pool and saw his friend Rancho waiting for him to wake up. Suigwin asked if he was the one who saved him, but Rancho replied that when he arrived, Suigwin had already been rescued. The one who saved him was a girl named Rika Ri. Ri was the only daughter of the vice president of Godgrave Tech, one of the largest technology and gaming companies in the country. She was the prettiest, smartest, and richest girl in school, always surrounded by admirers. As Rancho explained this, he held his girlfriend in his arms, proud of himself. Suigwin then remembered what he saw before he passed out. He had been kissed by a girl with pink hair, and he was all embarrassed when he remembered it. Some time later, while working as a security guard, Suigwin came across a couple making out in the cemetery next to the campus. He tried to approach them and ended up scaring them both. Sad that he had yet again missed out on a romantic experience, he cleaned up the place and sat near a lamppost with his makeshift gaming equipment, stealing electricity to play all night. The game he played was Dungeon Century, which was considered a difficult and expensive game, but Suigwin was completely addicted to it, playing it every night since its release. He had already surpassed the level required to beat the game and was controlling a level 180 character named Gwyn, who fought wearing only a vest, a scarf, underwear, and a ridiculous helmet. Even with this look, he was an urban legend within the game. In reality, he was just a poor addicted gamer who didn't have the money to spend on better equipment. After defeating one of the game's strongest bosses, he went to explore a new dungeon and heard a girl screaming as she ran away from a monster. She tried to use water magic against the creature, but it didn't work. Suigwin then sprang into action, using his ice attacks, and easily defeated the monster. The girl, who had pink hair, introduced herself as Ray, a level 11 player, and asked who he was. Before he could answer, his computer shut down due to a wiring problem. When he looked up, he saw that the pole from which he was stealing power was faulty. He tried to fix it, but ended up getting distracted when he saw the same girl open the window of the girls' dormitory. While he was watching her, her coworker Mackie thought he was a spy and threw a pillow at him, knocking him down. The next day, while cleaning windows as part of another job, he saw Ray playing a game on her laptop. Looking at the screen, he realized that she was the same player he had helped the night before. For the first time, a real girl was his friend in the game. Rancho noticed Suigwin's gaze and told him that falling in love was normal, but that Ray was on a different level, and that he should be realistic with his expectations. Later, back at the dorm, Suigwin received a friend request from Ray in the game and was thrilled. Over the next few months, The two played together and became close friends. One day, she asked him what he was like in real life, and Suigwin was saddened by the thought that they might never be friends outside of the game. He worked all the time, was poor, and had no family. While she came from a completely different world, he wished those days could last forever. But everything changed when a notification appeared saying that the game Dungeon Century was being shut down. Suigwin was devastated and spent the day wandering aimlessly around school, feeling like his life was over. Without the game, he would lose his only connection to Rei and would go back to being a lonely boy. Meanwhile, the vice president of Godgrave Tech delivered a mysterious box to his daughter Ri, asking her to keep it safe. He said it was just a precaution because a new game was about to be released, a game that would change the world. He also commented that she seemed sad to have found someone she liked in the game, and she blushed. That night, Ri logged into the game one last time and waited for Suigwin to show up. Sitting in the tavern, she heard about a hidden item called the Nightsong Flower, which could grant any wish. Some players joked that they might be able to stop the developers from shutting down the servers if they found the hidden item, but they quickly laughed it off. A short time later, Suigwin runs to his post and logs into the game to find Rai. She tells him that there is only a week left until the servers shut down and that she wants to spend as much time as possible exploring the game world with him. Suigwin thinks, trying to fool himself, that to her he is just another online friend among many others from the games she plays. He feels that when the game ends, he will never be able to see her like that again, and this saddens him. They walk together and talk about the game. Before leaving, Rai mentions the Nightsong Flower and says she wants to find it at any cost before the game ends. Suigwin, even with a heavy heart, promises to help her find the flower before the end. Meanwhile, GGT has announced the launch of its new online game called Grave Buster. In it, players will be tomb raiders searching for hidden treasures in different stages. To increase player engagement, the game will have a system in which financial power also determines in-game strength. In other words, whoever has more money in real life will also be stronger in the game. All players who register for the new game will receive an exclusive console called Senpai, specially made to run Grave Buster. So the week goes by, and the day of the grand final event of Dungeon Century arrives. Rai logs into the game and waits for Gwyn to show up to help her find the flower. But time passes, and he doesn't show up. Meanwhile, Suigwin spends the whole day working odd jobs and wallowing in sadness. Elsewhere, old Yuki watches the end of the game in his office. As he prepares to release his masterpiece, Game Buster, old players will be able to transfer items and currency to the new game, which will give them an advantage. But Yuki is still hoping that someone will find the hidden item before the shutdown. Rai walks through a field full of singing flowers and begins searching for the item alone. Suddenly, a monstrous-looking player loses control and starts attacking other players, stealing all their equipment. He reaches the field where Rai is and attacks her as well. She tries to fight back, but the enemy's avatar transforms into a tentacled monster, and the situation becomes very dangerous. Meanwhile, Suigwin is delayed by a minor accident, but finally manages to sit in front of the computer and log in. He goes to the tavern in search of Rai, but finds the place destroyed. In a recorded message, he learns that she went alone to look for the flower. Suigwin makes his way through the ruined city until he reaches the field and finds Rai lying on the ground, with all her equipment destroyed. He holds her in his arms and, with tears in his eyes, listens as she apologizes for not being able to find the flower, even though she holds a broken version of it in her hands. As Suigwin's tears fall on the flower, it begins to glow and blooms before the two of them. They watch the miracle in awe, but then the tentacled monster appears again and pierces Rai's chest, killing her. Suigwin falls to the ground with the flower in his hands just as the servers shut down and the game ends. Elsewhere, a red-haired woman enters GGT headquarters and goes to Yuki's office. She sits at his desk and points a gun at his head, saying that even though he is her co-worker, she regrets having to do this. Yuki asks if she is pretending to be a thief and says that this is a terrible idea. He asks if this was President Ling's idea, because it seems like the kind of uncreative plan he would have. The woman asks if he is going to tell her how to open the tomb, and he replies that he would never help thieves like her. She then calls him by name, recognizes him as the last guardian of the tombs, and thanks him for his services before shooting. The next morning, Suigwin walks towards school on his broken bicycle and sees Wan Koi running into the fog. When he calls for the cat, he sees Ray holding the animal in his arms and petting it. He tries to walk past her without saying anything, but she recognizes him as the player who has always protected her in the game and asks if she can thank him. He says he doesn't deserve thanks, since he failed at the most important moment and didn't even arrive on time, as he had promised. She replies that everything is fine and asks if he would protect her in the new game, Grave Robber. He is excited by the question and accepts, but ends up breaking the handlebars of his bike, which makes her laugh. Later that morning, the GGT headquarters is surrounded by police cars and roadblocks, as the investigation into the murder of Vice President Yuki begins. Suigwin is shocked to hear about it from Rancho during class. He runs to Rai's dorm, worried since her father had died. There, he meets Maki, who says that people from the company had already come to pick her up earlier to take care of the funeral arrangements. During the wake, many comment with pity on Rai's luck and rumors start to spread that Yuki was in debt. The case makes the headlines, and GGT President Ling makes a public statement saying they will not rest until they find the culprit. Meanwhile, the red-haired assassin watches his speech from behind the curtains. At home, Suigwin watches the news and, when looking at Yuki's photo, has a flashback of when he played with him as a child. He begins to suspect that he knows him from somewhere. A few days later, Rai calls Suigwin and asks him to come visit her. After they greet each other, she hands him a purple box with a letter on top. Suigwin opens the letter and discovers that it is a message from Yuki, who asks Rai to deliver the box to him. Upon opening the box, Suigwin finds a Seibei console. When he touches the screen with his finger, an identification process begins, and the system recognizes him as Riku Suigwin, starting to load. They are confused as to why Yuki would want him to have the console, until Rai reveals that she is not Yuki's biological daughter. She was adopted when she was very young and knows nothing about her real father. Just then, a black car arrives and Rai's maid tells her that some visitors are waiting. Rai goes to the door and finds two men asking if she is Yuki's daughter. Meanwhile, Suigwin's console finishes loading. He picks up the device and sees on the screen that he has 10 billion yen in his game account. He thinks there must be some error, but a recording starts playing. In the message, Yuki says that he raised Rai as his daughter and that he is also Suigwin's biological grandfather. Even though he doesn't remember it, it is true. Yuki explains that he left the inheritance so that Suigwin and Rai can live well together. Suigwin starts to feel all embarrassed just thinking about the possibility of Rai being his wife. But then Yuki continues his explanation. He says that Rai's real parents were his friends and had the same ideals, but they were killed by enemies. That's why he adopted Rai to protect her. Now that he is gone, Suigwin needs to use the money to take care of her. Just then, Suigwin hears Rai screaming from outside. He sees that the two men are trying to force her into the car, saying that she needs to pay off the huge debt her father left behind. Suigwin runs downstairs and orders them to stop. He steps forward to confront them, believing that he can defeat them with the power of his will, but ends up being beaten by one of the men, who throws him to the ground and beats him mercilessly. Seeing this, Rai is devastated and says that she will cooperate, as long as they stop hurting Suigwin. When the beating stops, Suigwin grabs the man's foot and says that he will pay the debt for her. He discovers that the debt is for 500 million yen and runs upstairs to get the money. But then Suigwin discovers that the in-game currency cannot be exchanged for real money, even though it is obvious. He is surprised by this information. At that moment, he hears Rai's voice and looks out the window. Seeing her being taken away inside the black car, she thanks him for trying to help her, even though he is poor. As the car speeds away, Suigwin begins to cry, thinking about Rai's smile, the time they spent together in the game, and the fact that he almost received her father's blessing to stay with her. Moved by a strong feeling and a desire to protect her, he decides to chase them on his bike. The men inside the car comment that it was good that he got hit, because that should have brought him back to reality. But soon they hear the sound of the bike approaching and see Suigwin coming after them while shouting Ria's name at the top of his voice. Ria rolls down the window, looks back, and sees Suigwin saying that he will save her, no matter what happens. She replies that she will wait for him. The driver, irritated by the scene, suddenly slams on the brakes. Suigwen gets too close and the car hits him from behind, throwing him hard to the ground on the side of the road. Ria cowers in her seat in fear, while the two men laugh at his situation. But then, a hooded man suddenly appears inside the car, surprising everyone. The driver asks who he is, and the man introduces himself as Silicon. He uses his power to eliminate the two men and makes the car crash. Suigwen approaches, confused, and asks who he is and where Ria is. Silicon replies that he has a message for him and says that Temujin Sam is waiting for him in Grave Buster. Soon after, he disappears from the scene before the car explodes. Later that night, Suigwen lies down on his bed and tries to activate the game console, but fails. He lies back and begins to reflect on everything that has happened so far. He wonders what this game called Grave Buster that Yuki created really is. In addition, he wants to understand who that man was and where he took Ria. With so many questions in his head, he feels overwhelmed, but then his console begins to glow green, and a girl with green hair and a striking appearance appears above him. Suigwen is startled and asks who she is and why she is there. She says her name is Twinstar and that she appeared because he summoned her as his master. Suigwen tries to explain that there must be a mistake, but Twinstar assures him that she is not mistaken. Soon after, she teleports the two directly to stage 34 of Grave Buster. Upon arrival, Suigwen observes the surroundings and begins to wonder if this really was the new game. He looks at Twinstar lying on the ground, dizzy, and then sees her being enveloped by a mist. She transforms into two small, cute creatures, and Suigwen wonders if this is her true form. Meanwhile, three other players appear in the same stage, but in a distant area, they begin to explore and search for treasures. Suigwen, confused, pokes Twinstar to try to understand what is happening. At that moment, a huge pyramid-shaped creature emerges from the sand and asks who dared to disturb its sleep. With that, the scene changes to the game's introduction, revealing a myth about the creation of the world. Long ago, an extremely powerful goddess created that universe. She used her own life to give birth to many others, and after that, she became exhausted. With everything complete, she decided to enter an eternal sleep inside the imperial tomb, leaving behind a great power. Her name was Goddess Bango. Back at Suigwen's place, the appearance of the pyramid startles Twinstar, who transforms into digital data and enters Suigwen's console. Inside, they introduce themselves as game guides and wish him good luck before disappearing. The pyramid hears this and says that it will not allow Suigwen to leave. He states that he will now be tested to see if he is worthy of becoming a tomb guardian. His mission is to stop any intruders and protect that stage. But then he looks down and sees Suigwen walking away, saying that he cares about it as much as people care about their own social life. Suigwen states that he does not have time for all that. The pyramid then says that if this is so, it means that he does not care about Rikuria and does not want to save her. He explains that without passing the test, Suigwen will never be able to rescue her. This angers Suigwen, and he turns around asking how the pyramid knew about it. Suddenly, a gigantic energy beam passes behind him towards the pyramid, almost hitting Suigwen. Luckily, the attack misses its target and Suigwen asks what that was. Elsewhere on the map, the three players who appeared earlier are aiming at the pyramid from afar. The blonde girl tells her younger brother, Smiper, that they missed their shot, but that the next one will be accurate. She then asks little Rin to go forward and distract the enemies. Back to Suigwen, the pyramid informs him that the invaders have already started their attack and that he must face them to pass the test. Suigwen replies that he is ready and tells them to start right away. The pyramid then shoots a green laser at the ground and summons a feline-looking girl named Shastia. She represents the spirit of the desert. After appearing, she turns to Suigwen and asks if he was who she was expecting. When he confirms, she says that she was waiting for him and jumps into his arms like a fox, stealing his first kiss. Suigwen is excited, but soon begins to have a childhood flashback. Remembering when Yuki gave him the red scarf, he recognizes at that moment that Yuki was indeed his grandfather and becomes emotional. Shastia comments that they managed to break the seal on his memories and is very happy. The pyramid then speaks and says that the time has come to reveal its true form. The upper compartment of the pyramid opens, and Riku Yuki emerges from it, floating on an aerial vehicle. He introduces himself as Suigwen's grandfather and explains that, although he has lived under many identities, the only true one was that of his grandfather. Soon after, Senpai uses his summoning ability and releases a horde of disgusting insects against the pyramid. Rin also attacks using his explosive sword and rides one of the insects, advancing towards Suigwen. They think of the treasures and rewards of that stage and claim that they will become rich from it. They prepare to fire another energy attack at the pyramid. Meanwhile, Yuki explains that it is just saved data from the game before his death in the real world. They run inside the pyramid, and Yuki leads Suigwen to the cockpit of a giant guardian hidden there, called Guardian Yuki 34. He prepares the giant's activation. Rin attacks with a powerful swing of his sword, cutting the pyramid in half, but in reality, it was only opening to reveal the true guardian hidden underground. The guardian emerges and immediately destroys several giant insects, leaving Rin frightened by its imposing presence. Meanwhile, Rei wakes up from a nightmare in which she was unable to save Suigwen from drowning the day before. She finds herself locked in a cell, guarded by a younger girl. The girl throws a dress in her direction and tells her to prepare for the purification ritual. Afterward, Rei is taken to a lake, where some mermaids help bathe her. On the battlefield, Suigwen and Shastia are inside the giant guardian, but they are still as inexperienced as they were outside. Unable to control it, they are attacked by the centipedes and Rin, who thinks that the robot is nothing more than a pile of useless metal. Suigwen and Shastia try to defend themselves from the attacks, while Yuki remembers the origin of the world and explains that the guardians of the tombs and the looters have been fighting over the goddess's tomb for over 1,000 years, but that they both originally had the same powers. He says that the guardians exist to stop the looters who want to spread destruction and obtain the goddess's power for themselves. Protecting the tombs, the power, and the world is their duty. However, over time, the number of guardians dwindles until only a few remain. Meanwhile, Ayu finishes charging her cannon and fires a huge beam of energy at the giant guardian, destroying one of the machine's legs. The robot collapses to the ground and Shastia worries about the impact, but Suigwen seems to have a plan. He tells her that they must eliminate the long-range cannon first. The guardian positions himself with his weapon, while Shastia takes control of the aim. Suigwen surveys the field and spots Ayu near Senpai. He instructs Shastia to aim calmly and shoot. With everything ready, Shastia fires and a red beam of energy is launched towards Ayu. He panics and screams, but the beam is reflected by a group of diamond cards and hits the guardian instead of Ayu. Senpai was responsible for the counterattack. She activates the hypnosis card and launches several cards into the air. The magic affects Shastia's mind, and she begins to shoot at the cards in the sky repeatedly. Out of control, she uses up almost all of her ammunition, leaving only one shot. But Suigwen manages to stop her in time and immobilizes her. At this moment, Rin and the centipede robots continue to attack the Guardian. Some of the centipede robots manage to invade the interior of the machine and begin to damage it from the inside. Senpai warns Rin to take cover, as Ayu is about to unleash her most powerful attack. Inside, Suigwen turns to ask Yuki for help, but finds him lying on the ground, about to disappear. Yuki says that he is just a digital copy of the real Yuki, and that his time is running out. He asks Suigwen not to be sad and instructs him to protect Bango's tomb, as that is the only way to save Rhea. Before disappearing, he states that Suigwen is the last of the tomb guardians. Suigwen is deeply shaken by losing his grandfather, just as he had regained his memories. He screams in sadness, and his scarf begins to glow, indicating that a new power has awakened. With a plan in mind, he puts Twin Star in control of Shastia's mind. He then mounts one of the centipedes and flies into the sky towards Senpai. Rin tries to catch up to him to find out who he is, but falls into the trap when Suigwen signals Twin Star to have Shastia shoot at the sticks in the sky, hitting Rin and knocking her down. After that, Suigwen places some reflective diamond cards in the path and makes the energy beam bounce off them, hitting Senpai and eliminating her as well. He then remains in the air, standing on one of the cards, and faces Ayu. He states that the Guardians still exist. Ayu, surprised, climbs on the cannon and fires at Suigwin. But Suigwin uses another card to reflect the attack back, eliminating Io. He returns to the Guardian, and Shastia tells him that he passed the test and is now the last of the Tomb Guardians. Suigwin states that he only made it because of her help and the twin stars. Shastia tells him that he was amazing and says goodbye, saying that his mission is over. She hugs him. And with that, the entire stage, the Guardian, and Shastia disintegrate into digital particles. Suigwin then falls into a dark digital abyss, but shortly after he leaves, an armed woman with pink hair appears behind him. She says she was curious about who he would face, but that he looks like a baby. She claims that he is not the last Guardian, and that title belongs to her, and then shoots him with her rifle. After being hit, Suigwin is kicked out of the game and finds himself back in his bed. He checks his chest for the wound, but his body heals quickly. At that moment, he receives a call at Seibei. When he answers, he hears a man who introduces himself as Temujin of the Totem clan. He says that he will be waiting for him at Grave Buster and ends the call. Suigwin then receives an image showing Ria lying on a bed, vulnerable, which makes him start to seriously worry about her safety. With the release of Grave Buster, the whole world is caught up in the new craze. Now, flaunting money and status has become the dominant fashion. Many new players enter the game with large amounts of yen, buy powerful equipment, and try to attract attention. The next day, in stage 35 of the game, called Golden Mines, Senpai and his group meet with their self-proclaimed leader, Wild Wolf the Kringlerd. They call their team the Gold Hunters. This group hunts down new players to steal their valuable items. They wait at a busy spot, watching for new prey to appear. Eventually, they encounter a group of new players, all wearing new equipment. One of them defeats a monster and gets some gold, while the others praise him. Senpai approaches with Furin and claims that they found a great treasure in the head mines, but that they were attacked by monsters and she is afraid. She tries to use her charm to convince the newbies to go to the mine. When they arrive, the players ask where the monsters are, and Senpai says that they must have run away after seeing their shiny equipment. Then, the monsters reappear and steal over 3 million coins. The players, greedy, run to the mine. Furin watches the scene with disgust. When they are all inside, EU uses his staff to trap the newbies in an energy trap. At that moment, Kringlerd jumps down from above and says that he will now take everything they have. Meanwhile, Suigwin goes to the Academy Library to study more about the new game. He searches for information about Temujin and the totems to try to find out where Ria is. At that moment, Rancho appears and says that he knows someone who can help. He introduces his new girlfriend, who, despite her appearance, is a gaming addict and participated in the closed beta. Suigwin wonders how Rancho can get involved with someone so different, but continues his research. He discovers that the world of Grave Buster is controlled by a man named Dark Tiger, the leader of an organization called Precious. This organization is made up of wealthy players who use their money to dominate the game, stealing from other players and maintaining total control. However, groups have emerged to resist this dominance, including the Totems, led by Temujin. Temujin is portrayed as a dangerous man, willing to do anything to achieve his goals. Later, Suigwin looks at the image of Ria sent by Temujin again. He reflects on the fact that Temujin will do anything to get what he wants. Overcome with intense thoughts, he rolls in bed, agitated. Meanwhile, Ria wakes up in a room and is approached by Temujin himself. He tells her that she can have anything she wants for the asking, but that she cannot leave. In the real world, Suigwin goes to the girls' dormitory and visits Maki. She says that no one knows where Ria is, as if she had disappeared. He looks at Ria's laptop, decides to bring her back, and tells Maki that she will be back soon. After that, he activates the console, calls Twinstar and says that he is ready, and is transported with her to the game. Meanwhile, Kringlerd and his group celebrate in the players' lobby after looting over 1 million yen from the newbies. He says that attacking rich newbies is the best strategy, but Senpai reprimands him, saying that he doesn't look good saying such things out loud. At that moment, Fern points to a large, unkempt man dressed in rags who is sitting at the table right in front of them. Ayu says that she will check who that guy is. He then returns saying that the man was the leader of the generals, one of the core groups of Precious. His entire group had been defeated by a mysterious woman who appeared out of nowhere and stripped them of everything they had. They find the story absurd and say that it is probably a rumor or that the group had an internal conflict. After this, the group goes on another hunt and captures another trio of new players. Kringler draws his sword and stabs one of them. Immediately, all of the three's items and money begin to be drained from their accounts and transferred to Kringler's account. He explains that when a player's account reaches 0, they are forcibly logged out and their account is deleted. After stealing everything from one of them, he prepares to do the same to the others. But someone shoots at the energy prison from afar and breaks the barrier. The newbies take the opportunity to escape. Kringler points his sword at the shooter and asks who she is. The woman reveals herself to be the same shooter who had shot Suogwin earlier and claims that she is there to hunt them down. Rin starts the fight by firing a series of attacks with her sword. Fibai and Ayu join in a combined attack of reflection and energy. The woman, however, dodges all the blows with extreme agility, as if she were wearing protagonist armor. She lands in front of Kringler, but Fibai and the others surround her and demand that she drop the weapon. She looks at everyone with contempt, pretends to agree, and drops the weapon only to activate a gravitational cage spell that traps all enemies. She then jumps out of the area and points her gun directly at Kringler, demanding that he hand over his items. He begins to beg her and tells her that she should take the items from his group, as they are stronger and more valuable. He lets her approach, appearing weak, and as soon as she turns around, he strikes her with his sword. While Fibai and the others criticize him for betraying them, he calls her a fool. The woman claims that it is a sword that transfers financial power from one person to another, taking it from the weak and giving it to the rich. Kringler confirms this and reveals that, despite its appearance, her account has over 50 million yen. He is then shocked to see her account and discovers that she is one of the 5 richest players in the game, with over 100 million yen. She glares at him and says that she wouldn't mind handing over the gold to him if he were able to carry it. Soon after, she drops a huge block of gold on him, instantly eliminating his character. After that, she gets into her carriage. Fibai asks her name. She replies that she is known as the Collector and that she lives to eliminate tomb raiders. She then departs while laughing loudly and disappears into the distance. Her name quickly makes it to the upper ranks of Precious, who decides that she needs to be eliminated. At the totem base, member Richard hands Temujin a red sea-bay, which had been ordered. Temujin claims that with that, they can show Precious that they can be unpredictable too. The young ninja Pashirika observes and asks if he intends to give it to Ria, claiming that she has become useless since Yuki's death. Silicon interrupts her and tells her to be quiet. Temujin replies that he knows that Ria still does not understand her own value, but that one day she will. Soon after, Temujin dresses Ria in a provocative outfit and gives her a red sea-bay, inviting her to become a new member of the totems. Meanwhile, Suogwin flies over an arena on stage 10, called the Twin Battle Gate. He wants to find the organizer of the battles, Lalong, who is also in charge of the beginner courses. During the flight, Suogwin notices a boy named Takashi climbing the side of the arena. He decides to help him and has Twinstar carry the two to the top. Takashi tells him that he is a poor orphan who lives with his older sister, Maken. They live in abandoned neighborhoods and barely survive. Takashi learned that there was money to be made with this new game and became interested. Maken, despite being sick, encouraged him to try it and worked hard to buy 2 Seibei consoles for them. They trained hard. Takashi obtained a special gun that allows him to take and store photos. With the memories of these photos, he increases the power of the gun and unlocks special abilities. One day, Maken fell seriously ill. Takashi entered the Lalong tournament to win the royal prize of 10 million yen and a rare familiar in the game, a snow leopard. Meanwhile, Suogwin, one of the game's 5 billionaires, flies above the arena just to avoid paying the 50,000 yen entry fee. Below, a battle takes place between 2 ice mages who proclaim themselves to be the best in the game, Mammoth Viking and Frost Magician Ayu. Fibai and Rin watch the match and comment on the exaggerated titles, while showing excitement similar to that of Ria when she dreamed of Suigwin. The fight begins. Ayu fires ice shards from her staff, but Viking deflects the attacks by swinging her axe hard. Ayu appears to be losing, but in fact she is trying to lure the enemy into the center, surrounded by the shards, to freeze him and defeat him with a final attack. While this is happening, Twin Stars asks Takashi who he thinks will win. Takashi replies that neither of them will win, because that's what he's there for. He uses his album to equip himself with a powerful armor. The sudden transformation makes Twinstar release them. Takashi falls on Ayu and knocks him out immediately. He then challenges the Viking. The commentators confirm that, according to the rules, an invader who challenges the participants automatically becomes one of them. Thus, Takashi and Suigwin enter the fight. Takashi transforms his album into a gigantic energy hammer, but the Viking proves to be much stronger and easily defeats him. Suigwin observes the situation and realizes that Takashi is fighting for his sick sister. He notices that the boy is losing memories of her as he continues to fight and, touched by this, decides to take over the battle. Suigwin enters the field, initially appearing confident, but soon finds himself in trouble, dodging the blows and hoping not to be defeated with a single attack. The Viking, bored, decides to use ice magic and traps Suigwin by the legs. Suigwin tries to break free, but fails. The Viking lunges forward with his axe for the final blow. At that moment, Twinstar intervenes and blocks the attack with her bare hands. She tells Suigwin that he will have to make it up to her later. She pushes the Viking back and says it is time to show her true form. She prepares to transform into a two-headed dragon, but instead reverts to the form of Twin and Star, two furry little creatures. The Viking finds the two adorable and catches them in his hands. Takashi jumps to their defense and says that a hero protects girls and that he still has the strength to fight. Hearing this, Twin and Star feel moved and merge again, returning to the full form of Twinstar. Twinstar thanks Takashi for saving them, and then truly transforms, revealing her full form as a two-headed dragon. Chairman Lao Long checks her documents and confirms that she is an extremely rare legendary creature, classified as an S-class humanoid beast called the two-headed jade dragon. Everyone wonders how someone like Suigwin managed to tame such a high-level familiar. Twinstar decides to end the battle quickly and fires his emerald breath at the Viking, turning him into crystal before shattering him completely and ending the fight with victory. With that, they win the tournament. Suigwin hands over all the prizes to Takashi and continues on foot to the next stage, where he will participate in the beginner's course taught by President Lao Long. Meanwhile, the president watches from afar, wondering who Suigwin really is, and begins to suspect if he has any connection to that mysterious woman who single-handedly won a previous tournament. Referring to the collector, Suigwin arrives at the beginner's course location and finds two other players who would also participate. He tries to be friendly and greets them both, but the purple-haired boy completely ignores him, while the other, more cheerful and passionate about music, recognizes him as the poor boy in class who is always doing odd jobs. His name is Sha, and he is the president of the student council, as well as Suigwin's classmate. However, Suigwin doesn't recognize him, since he usually spends his classes sleeping or working. He only has contact with Rancho and his imaginary friend Timmy. Soon after, a fair-skinned girl appears on stage, full of energy, and introduces herself as the group's trainer. Her name is Rin. She calls out everyone's names and reveals that the purple-haired boy's name is Titan. Rin leads them through a rocky terrain, explaining that the training will be in the form of a battle royale. She says that this place was, 100 years ago, the site of a tomb that was completely looted after the looters defeated the boss of the place. Shaw observes and notices many monsters hiding in the shadows of the rocks. He asks Rin about them, and she explains that they are called mole monkeys, agile and clever creatures. To complete the training, the players must defeat them all. Shaw suggests that they fight as a team, but Titan coldly responds that he prefers to act alone. At that moment, a group of mole monkeys appears running towards the group. The monsters attack, but Rin repels them with a series of quick kicks and strikes and begins explaining the basics of the game. She says that all players receive an exclusive item called a Buster item, which functions as their main weapon. Shaw shows off her item, a golden circular blade called the Eye of the Storm. Titan shows off his item item, an elegant gauntlet called the Metal Fist. Shaw asks Suigwen what his item is, but Suigwen replies that it's nothing special like the others. Before the conversation can continue, Rin warns them that more monsters are approaching, and they all engage in combat. Titan strikes at the enemies with his gauntlet, and Rin also attacks them with her sword, but they realize that physical attacks do not work. Suigwen also tries to fight, kicking one of the monsters against the wall, but notices that the damage is null. Shaw asks how they will win if physical attacks have no effect. Rin explains that they must defeat the leader, a giant three-eyed ape called the Great Mole Monkey. It is the magic of this boss that is strengthening the others. Shaw asks how they will defeat such a strong enemy, but Titan steps forward and lands a direct punch on the boss. He then smashes it against the ground with a series of blows and finishes with a direct attack that turns the monster to gold. Everyone watches in amazement, and Shaw says that she recognizes that move from somewhere. With the boss defeated, Rin begins to eliminate the remaining monsters with ease. Like a true sword master, Shaw gets excited and begins to dance around the field with her blade as if it were a hoop, defeating several enemies. In a short time, the group clears the entire area. Suigwen asks if this means they passed the course. Shaw complains, saying that she would like to receive more orders from Rin, but Rin says that, in order to complete the training, they need to defeat her. Rin throws several daggers at the group. Suigwen dodges them easily. Titan summons a creature to block the attack. Shaw is surprised and says that he spent 500,000 yen of his allowance on the game and still couldn't buy a familiar. He asks Titan if he managed to accumulate enough monsters by hunting, but Titan ignores him as usual. Shaw turns to Suigwen and says that, because he is always doing odd jobs, he probably didn't have the money to invest in the game. After accidentally mocking him, Shaw explains that his family is rich and that he will continue to put money into the game to become stronger and protect Suigwen as well. Rin then asks him to stop talking and remove the knife from his own head. Shaw looks up, realizes he's been hit, falls to the ground, and starts raving, saying that he now carries her DNA because he was hit with a personal item. Rin then turns to Suigwen and uses one of her special eyes to analyze his item, asking him to show her how it works. Suigwen says it's nothing serious. At that moment, Titan tries to attack Rin by surprise, but she dodges and retreats, summoning her sword and preparing to fight. They start to face each other with speed and power, flying through the sky amidst the blows. Shaw watches and realizes that Titan is, in fact, a legendary professional player who has been world champion in 3 virtual reality fighting games for 3 years in a row. This year, he hasn't participated in any tournaments, and now he's here. Titan hears the comments and asks if they want to help him, because they would only be able to advance to the next stage if they defeat her. Shaw gets excited and says he's going to win this battle and declare himself to Rin. Shaw advances, while Suigwen activates his item called Crow's Scarf. He uses the number 1 skill, Engage First Blood, which allows him to copy the skill of the first defeated player. He thinks it will be useless until someone falls, so he waits. Shaw calls Suigwen and shows him his special ability that makes him invisible and makes him fly by merging with the wind. With that, Shaw tries to get close to Rin to whisper his email in her ear. Meanwhile, Titan manages to reduce Rin's health to 15%. They face each other, ready for the final confrontation, but Rin pulls back his sword and hits Shaw, who is coming from behind. Shaw is defeated and kicked out of the game. Suigwen holds her hand and listens to her silly daydreams before disappearing. Suigwen then gets up and warns Titan that he will not be able to beat Rin because she is invincible. Titan gets angry and replies that he is the invincible one and resumes the fight. Suigwen, in turn, uses Shaw's ability, becomes invisible, and flies through the sky looking for something. He finds a hidden minecart and learns the true identity of instructor Rin, who is actually a younger child named Furin. Her ability is called Mirage Lure, and it allows her to create a clone that copies her appearance. Suigwen concludes this because during the battle, Rin attacked Shaw from an angle out of his line of sight, indicating that the real Furin was watching from a distance. He alerts Titan, and with this, they complete the beginner course and unlock the ally cards feature. Furin explains that with these cards they can form groups with other people and see their stats. She asks who Suigwen really is, stating that she does not believe he is just a newbie with such a powerful creature and so much knowledge of the game. Suigwen says he might tell her later and begins to walk away. Titan then jumps up and attacks him with his fist, saying that he also wants to know how strong he really is. Suigwen dodges the attack and escapes with Furin into a distant building. Inside, he asks why she is not fighting. Furin explains that after using her illusionary mirage ability, she needs some time before she can fight again. She then asks him why he helped her escape. Suigwen says he wants to team up with her, but she accuses him of being an idiot for trying to team up with such a young girl. He proposes a bet, saying that if he defeats Titan outside, she must join his group, sealing the promise with a pinky squeeze. Soon after, Titan breaks into the building and throws them out with a blow from his huge metal fist. He decides to go into berserk mode, but Suigwen stops him by activating his technique and using the ability of Sha, the Wind Man. With this, he controls the wind and creates camouflage with leaves. Combining this with his speed, ability to fly, and invisibility, he tricks Titan, making it seem like he is being attacked in the air, while in reality he cuts his leg. Titan becomes enraged and tries to fight back, but soon feels exhausted and falls to his knees. Suigwen encourages him to surrender and end this useless fight, but Titan replies that he will never surrender to a loser like him. Then, Titan activates the ultimate technique of his weapon, the Tabadan Blade, which transforms his metal fist into a luxury sports car. He loads the vehicle with 100 million yen and decides to run Suigwen over with it. Suigwen accepts the challenge, stands in front of Furin as a shield, and tells him that he can try. Titan speeds straight at Suigwen, but upon hitting him, it feels as if he has crashed into a mountain. The car bounces off the impact and is thrown into the air. Furin reminds her that in that world, financial power is the ultimate strength, and that someone with less money can never defeat someone richer than him. She begins to wonder who Suigwen really is and how he has so much money that he could withstand a £100 million impact without suffering any harm. Suigwen replies that he cannot tell her that, but claims that Titan has lost all of his wealth and will be forced to log out, having his account deleted. They then realize that the unowned loaded car is about to explode like a bomb. Suigwen covers Furin with his body, and when they open their eyes, they realize that they are under an overturned minecart. Suigwen comments that Furin's ability to identify items is very useful and that he would love to have her on the team. He says that he will put his email in her Seabay, but she replies that she already has too many emails and that he should give her something else. At that moment, an investigator sent by the digital authorities, the Collector, emerges from underground and knocks them out of the minecart. She appears and says that she was wondering whether Suigwen would take the beginner's course or not, but that she did not expect to find him talking to a young woman hiding under a minecart. Suigwen stands up and starts to approach her, saying that he also has questions for her. Rin warns him to be careful, as she used her analysis eye to scan the Collector and noticed that, normally, a player with a divine totem has a blue flame around their body, but she has 10 of them. She then explains that the only known player with this type of ability is the Collector, one of the 5 billionaires in the game. Suigwen holds her scarf and asks what a billionaire is doing there. The Collector then fires a special bullet at Rin, turning her into a doll and putting her to sleep for a few minutes. She states that she wanted to talk to Suigwen in private. That's why she did that. She then fires a monstrous bullet that enters Suigwen's mouth and ends up in his stomach. She explains that this creature is called a sausage dragon and that it will be the key to him saving Ria. He asks if she knows where Ria is, and the Collector replies that he shouldn't believe anything Temujin says. She instructs Suigwen to use it to enter the totem base, as the sausage dragon will reveal Ria's exact whereabouts once he is inside. After that, the Collector gets into her carriage and leaves. Suigwen still asks where Temujin is, but she tells him not to worry, as Temujin will come to him. Soon after, she eliminates a totem assassin who was following Suigwen from afar. Rin regains consciousness, and Suigwen explains everything that happened. He then approaches the assassin and asks where Temujin is. When the man ignores him, Suigwen uses his wind ability and moves quickly like lightning, overtaking him. The assassin responds that he has no orders to talk to him and tries to get away, but when Suigwen tries to chase him, the man counterattacks with precision and speed, using 2 blades. Suigwen believes that the blow will be impossible to avoid, but Rin jumps to protect him. The assassin activates an extreme speed technique and disappears from the sight of the two. Suogwin asks why Rin helped him, and she replies that she wouldn't let a member of her team die like that. Suogwin is moved by this. Soon after, the assassin returns, moves around them with absurd speed, and attacks them several times. He then kicks Rin away, but Suogwin saves her using his own speed. They notice the number 32 written on their hands. Like a digital counter, they deduce that this is the number of times they have been cut, and that something must happen when this number is reached. Despite this, Suogwin rushes forward without thinking, and is hit again, which causes him to be forced out of the game. The assassin then throws one of his blades at Rin, but she blocks it with her weapon. Even so, the block counts as another cut, and she is also automatically disconnected. The two must now wait 24 hours before they can re-enter. Outside of the game, Suogwin receives a call from an unknown number. He believes it is Rin, but the speaker is Temujin. He tells Suogwin that if he still wants to save Rhea, he must follow his instructions. Meanwhile, in the GGC corporate building, a secret meeting is being held between the leaders of the organization that runs the game, Precious. They conclude that the reception to the game has been positive and that they are ready to advance to the final stage, surpassing the 0 point. With Dark Tiger, one of the game's 5 billionaires, leading the group, Precious has become the most influential organization. It has 16 senior officers, whose combined assets exceed 2 billion yen. These leaders inform Dark Tiger that preparations for conquering Stage 0 are complete. He asks about the festival that will take place on Stage 18 the next day. The leaders inform him that they have already sent out transport rings via email to all players. However, they report a concern. The Tomb Guardian counter has increased from 0 to 1, meaning that a new Guardian has appeared. Upon hearing this, Dark Tiger orders that this Guardian be found and eliminated at all costs. Meanwhile, on the phone, Temujin tells Suogwin that he is holding Rhea hostage and that he need not worry about her safety for now. He informs him that the festival will take place on Stage 18 and will be for players who have completed all previous stages. This festival will also serve as a preparatory stage for conquering Stage 0. To do this, Suogwin must find a player named Nishikaze. Suogwin asks how he will recognize him, and Temujin replies that he will know when the time comes. He then ends the call, leaving Suogwin with more questions than answers once again. The next morning, Suogwin wakes up to find a group of boys gathered in front of the boys' dormitory, all staring at a girl. He wonders what was going on and if they were just flirting with her, but soon discovers that the girl is none other than Rin. When she calls him for help, all the other boys turn their gazes to Suogwin, showing envy and calling him a lucky guy, a traitor, and other names, giving him hateful looks as he leads her away. Suogwin takes her to the Academy's cafe, where the two talk about the team's recent formation. Rin orders a huge amount of food, racking up a bill of about 20,000 yen, and looks at Suogwin, who looks concerned about the amount, despite being a player with 10 billion yen in his account. Just then, some bullies enter the place and mock him for leaving Rhea for someone lower in rank, calling them both poor. Rin stands up and claims that he is worth over 100 million inside Grave Buster, and demands that they stop bothering him. Suogwin thinks that while this is true in game, all that money is worthless in real life. But then he discovers that he can use the game's digital currency to pay for food at the gym's cafe. This completely surprises him. He uses his Seibei to pay the bill, and the waitress reveals that she can't even pronounce the total amount in his bank account, as it is larger than the system can display. After filling his empty stomach with 2 bowls of instant ramen, he takes Rin back to his room, receiving even more hateful glares along the way, and even drawing the attention of agents who are watching him. Inside the room, Suogwin tells Rin that his goal is to save a girl named Rhea, who has been kidnapped by Temujin, a member of the Totems. Rin says that she will help him as part of his team, and the two enter the game together. They appear on Stage 10, where there are 2 main arenas and a crowd gathered. Rin comments that an event will soon begin there, and that this is one of the central points for important announcements. The two sit in a tavern, where Rin again orders a lot of food, as if he were trying to win an eating contest. Meanwhile, Suogwin overhears chatter about a new billionaire emerging in the game, someone who would be taking on both Precious and the totems. Suigwin begins to think that they are talking about him. He feels that he is on par with the top players and considers revealing his identity as the game's 6th billionaire. But the players who were talking about this get up and walk towards the exit, completely ignoring Suigwin. Outside, the two see a flock of pigeons flying over the players and dropping golden rings. These rings are actually portals to stage 18, where the festival will take place. As soon as everyone receives the rings, they are transported immediately. Suigwin and Rin also decide to go, and in an instant, they arrive at the new stage. On the other side, Dark Tiger is sitting on his throne and begins the conquest of stage 18. He intends to use the weaker players as a meat shield to clear the way to the stage's boss guardian. He watches from above with arrogance as the monsters in the stage begin to slaughter the players. He then orders his officer Bashida to quickly finish off the smaller enemies. Bashida uses a combination of electric current and his sword to eliminate all the monsters at once, leaving everyone impressed. With the smaller monsters defeated, the stage summons the chief guardian, a powerful homomancer named Aslan. In the distance, the masked assassin from before watches the battle alongside a purple-haired girl. She is Nishikaze, and both have been ordered by Temujin to wait for the arrival of the last guardian. On the battlefield, the players team up against Aslan and manage to quickly destroy one of his arms. However, Aslan begins to regenerate like a vampire, reforming the arm from the surrounding blood. Meanwhile, Suigwin watches everything from atop a pillar until he notices a crack in the space above. He turns to investigate and ends up taking a direct hit to the face from Nishikaze. Suigwin asks what's wrong with her, and Nishikaze replies that she was told to wait for him, but got bored and decided to take action. Rin warns him that Nishikaze is very strong, and Suigwin realizes that this is the same person Temujin mentioned. He asks why Ria was kidnapped, but Nishikaze says that he doesn't care about that and states that he would also like to meet her. She then activates an ability and creates a mirror that connects directly to Ria's room. Suigwin can see her, although he cannot speak to her, and Ria cannot see him either. Still, he is happy to know that she is okay. Suddenly, Nishikaze attacks him without warning, but he manages to retreat in time. She explains that her boss said he was strong, and she wanted to confirm. Nishikaze activates his analysis ability and examines Suigwin's buster item, confirming that it is Rikayuki's wave. Meanwhile, Aslan enjoys eliminating players as if they were mere NPCs, killing them as collateral damage. He summons a legion of blood mosquitoes that attack all the players. After killing several of them, Aslan turns their bodies into blood and absorbs their essence using his homomancy to become even stronger. At that moment, he notices a red light shining on a pillar and jumps towards it, saying that he has finally found the wave and the blood he was waiting for. He looks at Suigwin, points his staff at his face, and says that he has been ordered to follow him. The staff transforms into a small key, which Aslan hands to Suigwin, explaining that it is the key to stage 0, but that first he will need to pass one last test. Aslan gathers all the blood around him and assumes his final form, known as the Bloody Buddha. He shows a vital point on his body and asks Suigwin if he can identify what it represents. Suigwin asks if it is a weak point, and Aslan confirms, saying that this is the only place capable of destroying it. However, it is also where the last memory of his grandfather is sealed. When Suigwin wins the battle, he will recover these memories and can proceed to stage 0. Suigwin accepts the challenge and activates his crow scarf. Nishikaze explains that his buster item grants 7 gems, each with a different power. The gems are randomly drawn each time it is activated, and she still doesn't know what each one does. The first blue gem allows you to copy the ability of the first enemy you defeat. Suigwin wants to obtain a powerful gem, and when the red gem is activated, he becomes excited. Aslan asks to see the true power of Suigwin's buster item and hits him with a strong blow, knocking him to the ground. Nishikaze flees with Rin, and it is then revealed that Suigwin blocked the attack with a sword called the Raven Blade. Aslan says that swords are ineffective against his regenerative body, but Suigwin reveals that this blade triples the speed of its wielder and has an extremely sharp blade. Suigwin quickly slashes and throws Aslan into a pool of blood. From above, he observes that he is trying to regenerate again by absorbing blood from the environment and decides to finish him off before that happens. He jumps with a slashing attack, but Aslan blocks and repels it, becoming even more powerful. Aslan grows more arms and takes on a monstrous form. He begins to fire energy blasts from his hands, and Suigwen tries to fight back, but ends up taking a devastating blow that throws him away and breaks his sword in the process. Soon after, Aslan reveals a lotus symbol above his head and explains that if in 80 seconds he fails to recover the core, all the blood inside his body will explode, causing his death. Suigwen looks at his sword and notices that a special smoke is coming out of it. He identifies that it is concentrated oxygen and decides to spread it all over the battlefield, which ends up offering a temporary increase in attributes to all other players who were nearby. With this, he lures them to attack Aslan, even though he knows that they will all be defeated. But this was part of the plan. Suigwen forces Aslan to use his ultimate attack, the Plasma Dragon, and once the 80 seconds are up, he forces him to absorb the blood of all the defeated players. However, instead of healing himself, Aslan's body collapses and explodes into a pool of oxidized blood. Suigwen reveals that he used some chemistry to poison the Guardian, turning the oxygen in his body into ozone, preventing his regeneration for a long time. Then, Suigwen collects Aslan's core and asks how to use it. Aslan tells him that he must take it to stage 0, and that there everything will become clear all around. The players all watch Suigwen in awe for defeating Aslan single-handedly and begin to comment that he must be one of the billionaires as well. As the rumors spread, a group of masked men suddenly appear and introduce themselves as the Silverbacks. This group is made up of millionaires who answer to a leader with over 100 million in assets. They demand that Suigwen hand over the core and leave, or he will be beaten and stripped naked. Suigwen replies that they must shut their stinking mouths and come back next month to try their luck again. The group gets angry and activates their asset bars, showing that they all have over 1 million in assets. With the leader of the group displaying over 5 million yen, they start to show off their numbers in a flashy way. But Suigwen comments that it is not enough. Then, he takes out his own bar and surprises everyone by showing that he is indeed a billionaire. After that, he walks to the entrance of stage 0. Aslan informs him that only he can pass from there, and so Nishikaze and Rin are left behind. When Suigwen goes through the portal, he finds himself in front of a maple tree and feels a strong nostalgia. He recognizes that place as the one he used to go with his grandfather. He then asks Aslan what the method is to unlock his memories. Aslan instructs him to eat the fruit-shaped core. As he does so, Suigwen begins to have flashbacks to his childhood, when his grandfather offered Ria to a sealing ritual and drained all of her true powers. His grandfather explained that she would not remember anything from her past, which would also free her from the curse to protect them. He also sealed Suigwen's memories, using the fruit to do so. He then used his own blood to create a guardian that would protect the key to that place. This guardian was Aslan. When the flashbacks end, Aslan congratulates Suigwen on becoming the last guardian and states that his mission has come to an end and that he can now rest in peace. Before leaving, he presents Suigwen with new equipment and allows him to leave. On the other side, the members of the Silverbacks contact their leader, the man with over 100 million in assets, and report the appearance of a billionaire. The leader orders them to hide his connection to Precious, and then fires at Suigwen using a cannon firing ability with full map range. Everyone watches the attack fly towards the entrance and realizes that it is something extremely powerful, beyond any ordinary measurement. The attack advances towards Rin and Nishikaze, but at that moment Suigwen steps out of the portal and blocks the attack with one hand. He explains that his new equipment has made his life points equivalent to the sum of all the players in that stage and comments that the attack was really strong, as it managed to take away 1/5 of his total life. After that, Suigwen asks Nishikaze to speak to Ria. He transmits a message asking her to wait for him and promises that, in a few days, everything will return to normal. Meanwhile, Silicon is next to Ria and comments that in 5 days, the 0 stage will be activated. If everything goes well, he will transfer her to Suigwen. As promised, Nishikaze then informs her that he will take Suigwen to Temujin, and they begin walking towards her portal. But the leader of the Silverbacks, known as Monkey, suddenly appears and begins attacking the players in the place. He calls for the 6th billionaire, threatening to kill all the common players in his name, and summons a large golden monkey to crush everyone on the ground. Feeling guilty, Suigwen decides to go down to face him, but Monkey traps him in a position and prepares an extremely powerful shot. Before the attack can be released, the masked man of the totems appears and changes the trajectory of the attack by hitting Monkey's arm, saving Suigwen. He then approaches and heals him using the title of Doctor. Nishikaze explains that his name is Purple and that he is one of the strongest members of the totems. Monkey is excited by the presence of strong opponents and starts a battle against all of them. He reveals that he is among the best players who are about to become billionaires and shows that his assets total almost 1 billion yen. He begins to fire with a machine gun, but 2 other members of the totems appear and create a barrier made of ice and wood to contain the attacks. Inside the protection, Suigwen asks if Monkey could not become a billionaire just by defeating a small monster to get 1 more coin. They explain that in Grave Buster, assets are limited to a value just under 1 billion. To break this limit, you need to obtain a title called Lone Star, something extremely rare and with unknown conditions. These titles appear randomly. In Purple's case, he received the title of Doctor after making over 10,000 healing potions. The Wood Wizard, on the other hand, earned his title by mastering all the magical elements of the game. They explain that by becoming a billionaire, the player can create a unique rule for their character. An example of this is the Collector, who can have more than 10 Buster items. Suigwen recalls that he received his title by becoming the last guardian of the tomb, thanks to the Seibei left by his grandfather, but he still doesn't know what his special ability is. They comment that there are currently 10 players close to becoming billionaires, and that Monkey is one of the main ones among them, having achieved this status in the first year of the closed BIA. Since then, he has been trying to get the title of Lone Star, eliminating millions of players in pursuit of it. In short, he is a monkey obsessed with battles. Suigwen says that, even knowing this, he can't just stand by and let Monkey do as he pleases, because he needs to save Ria. According to the contract made with the totems and his grandfather, he must act as the last guardian of the tomb and protect Stage 0 from any attempt to conquer it, since all the other players, including Precious, will try to defeat him. He activates his ability, and, this time, receives the purple gem, which gives him super speed through his own shadow, and a kind of ocular power with a supercomputer integrated into his brain. With these advantages, he saves everyone inside the barrier and prepares to fight Monkey. But Nishikaze interrupts and tells Monkey that, if he is looking for someone really strong to fight, she can introduce him to her boss, Temujin, who is also one of the 6 billionaires. Monkey is excited about the proposal and tells Suigwen that he does not mean to offend him, but that defeating Temujin, since he also controls the totems, would be even more rewarding. With that, everyone decides to go together towards the totem's base to find Temujin, and so we end the first and second seasons of this story.